The Blue New Deal is an apolitical policy solution that originates from our work at Profi.me, including the ancient Hippocratic tradition that traces back to Jaghpetic people, the horse shepherds, who have been making law, Jagiellonian law, for over 50,000 years. The Blue New Deal includes, for example, amendments to H438 in Vermont, which a release of rainy day funds, or the $250 million that Vermont is looking at spending on women's prisons, and instead looking at alternate options. Those alternate options include funding a Napoleon Bonaparte College of Knights, education second to none, in the tradition of West Point, a private Magistrate Judge program in the Kent English tradition, including for addressing the opioid epidemic, for opioid diversion, for perioperative services like anesthesia and surgery. A Manor 1 program for prison employees to be freed from the disease and carcinogens of their workplace. A Vermont Olympic medical sect, as in a new third medical sect in Vermont, with clinics in every county that is Ability First Medicine, to commemorate Vermont having more Olympians per capita than any other U.S. state. Not everybody understands that Vermont actually has more Olympians per capita than any other U.S. state. It happens to be an incredible finding. A third medical sect is so important because if you look back in time, there were 103 different shepherd traditions of good doctors. Those are the nations that Americans originated from, in large measure. And those traditions were lost, basically, and consolidated down into two medical sects, as we know today, medical doctor and osteopath. Those were not the only two options of top rate, better healthcare than anything else in the world. Quite to the contrary, the other methods of medicine were not overly intrusive and were ability first medicine. So we've called it Vermont Olympic for the Vermont example. A medical sect that's based on ability first, with all the connotations of the Olympics, which are incredibly appropriate in the example of Vermont. That so performed well per capita in Olympians per capita. Vermont was founded by multinational, multilinguistic nations of peoples: French, Dutch, English, Prussian. Equity is about honoring the rights of all the languages, of all the ethnicities of Vermont, including French, Dutch, Prussian, Ancient Greek, which includes both the neoclassical design out there you see in the State House, and Olympic, where we are atop the country in Olympians per capita. There's a good reason, and we elaborate on it, to add a Vermont Olympic clinic in every county in Vermont, in ability first medicine, as part of the strategy to spend more on medicine while spending less on incarceration. Capitalize on what we do best and the intent of Vermont's founders, such as Napoleon Bonaparte II, who is unsung as a hero in the history of Vermont, where he built West Point. He was one of the Jaghpetic knights that came to America and was involved in building West Point and bringing artillery, horses, and knights to northern New England to defend it against what was the Dutch West India Company. He built the Erie Canal. He expanded the French Code throughout America, which includes a lot of the covenant for building codes in Vermont and out west throughout America, and made Vermont a state by freeing northern New England from Dutch captivity. Not everybody knows that the Dutch West India Company was headquartered in Albany, New York. Napoleon Bonaparte II was involved in building West Point, building an academy, a classic Batavian-style academy, which was able to deter the Dutch. And thereafter, it was so successful that New Amsterdam was renamed New York, which was key as part of Vermont's story, because Vermont was freed from the state of New York, where it was a New York claim until West Point was built, and was able to break away because there were knights defending the upper Hudson Valley of the, and the upper Connecticut Valley, which is so key to the American story of expanding across the country, including liberating the French Code, where the French Code was the building code, the design code, the culture code of Vermont out west. Vermont was not provided with a university second to none, such as Harvard, which was founded by Sir Yvonne, who was a knight. Napoleon Bonaparte II did not found a university in Vermont. There are good universities in Vermont. There's not a first-rate university in Vermont that is able to solve the problem of incarceration. Napoleon Bonaparte College of Knights is more than appropriate, and founding a College of Knights has been proven through history to build economic mobility, to stimulate the economy, and to reduce incarcerated populations. Napoleon Bonaparte II brought the tradition of University to Paris and was instrumental in building the hospital at West Point. And it was conservative, like Charlemagne, where he brought the Knight Code of Honor to Vermont. America had knights. Before the War of 1812, America had a storied knight history. A history that has been lost, a history that can be regained, and is central to the solution of solving our problems. Sir Yvonne, the 5th governor of the Bay Colony, passed the first religious freedom law in the New World. He instituted a system of pages, squires, and knights around what is now known as Harvard University, using knight covenant, which was central to the upward trend of Harvard University of the Bay Colony. Vermont was part of the Bay Colony. Again, Vermont was not provided a system of economic mobility with pages, squires, and knights. That's something that we plan to reintroduce with the Napoleon Bonaparte College of Knights. We have a system of psychometrics that we call Atlantis 1, 2, and 3, which are so useful in helping people make decisions about their life and career, where there are natural differences between individuals. Those are some of the really interesting differences between people, other than things like language, ethnicity. People's natural differences in personality trait are actually way more interesting and keep life interesting for a long time because not everybody is made the same way, which is one of our strengths in America. The Blue New Deal's Prosperity for All includes a system of economic mobility in these knighthoods that are proven to have marked the upward trend of the Iron Age, of the Enlightenment, and can help stimulate Vermont's economy in a way that all political parties can agree to. We can add an environmental justice program, which includes a biome night, fauna environmental night to protect species, Atlantis energy night, Atlantis Regulus architecture night, which is so central to building homes and facilities in light of our nation's energy needs, in light of climate change, both. Our Healthcare for All New Blue Deal is predicated on my book, Perfecting the Brand American Medicine, which is on sale on my website. It's a system that policymakers, lay people, political parties can both agree on. That's built on the experience of East Germany and West Germany. Building resources in medical exam rooms in that Vermont Olympic tradition of ability first medicine is central to the solution for reducing the incarcerated population and providing a healthier environment for the employees, the wardens, the guards at prisons. Conquer disease from the prison employee population occupants on up through all of Vermont as a maxim, with the Blue New Deal. Upgrade the roster of care providers to include ability first medicine and a new prioritization of the Hippocratic Oath, so physicians can stop being everything to everybody, and a segment of them can choose to be ability first. Ability first medicine is the medicine where you would find individuals in a program to get back to what motivates them, get back to work, get back to the things that will keep them as law-abiding citizens. The two medical sects that we have don't have a prioritization of the Hippocratic Oath and can't accomplish that work because they were being asked to be everything to everybody. So we can upgrade healthcare to include reserves out of that $250 million, reserves for an assurance program for the demographic of younger peoples that sometimes get into legal trouble, with ability first medicine for medical science-based solutions to reducing incarceration, reducing crime first, and then reducing incarceration based on reducing crime, based on physician-based life insurance, as in having physicians have some role in life insurance trusts in Vermont, so that people are provided the option of having a longer life expectancy, so that physicians are compensated for individuals that live longer. That's one of our initiatives with Atlantis American. Life Expectancy First Medicine. The Blue New Deal also calls for an upgrade to medical facility plan using a Vermont Olympic Medical Clinic with third new medical sect in each of the 13 counties of Vermont to commemorate Vermont having the most Olympians per capita in the Union as centers to solve, to disincarcerate Vermont. The medical sect is, Joe Teen Olympic as an ability first medicine rather than sick care. It's medicine where we can increase ability through page programs, squire programs, through knighthoods, through the Napoleon Bonaparte College of Knights by Profi.me. For justice and community safety, where there's those wardens that work in prisons, those guards that work in prisons, can be provided the option of additional education outside of serving the justice population and serve out in the general population. The Blue New Deal includes justice and community safety programs. Central to that is the United States Supreme Court ruling Dent versus West Virginia, which in Vermont is VSA 1391, which specifies the qualifications for medical licensure. It's so important because individuals that are not physicians have percolated into policymaking, health decision-making, where it is way outside their license and way outside their training. Physicians are needed to make decisions on healthcare. Medical scientists are needed to make decisions on healthcare. Medical scientists are the judge for medicine and always have been, going back to Benjamin Franklin and before. And Benjamin Franklin was a judge. He was a judge by being a medical scientist and a natural lawyer. Dent versus West Virginia is so important because it was originated during the height of the Civil War, where Frank Dent came over the hill from Virginia to practice medicine without a license. And the physicians in that place where the physicians petitioned to break West Virginia away from the rest of Virginia joined the Union against the Confederacy, where 3 weeks later, West Virginia soldiers joined Vermont soldiers with the rest of the Union to win the decisive battle at Gettysburg, which was fought over unlicensed medicine by Frank Dent, a non-medical scientist, a non-physician, a non-healthcare administrator. The people that understand healthcare are better to design it, those that are medical scientists, physicians, administrators, than those who have been doing so, given that American life expectancy is decreased under the non-medical science era of health policy. which includes violations of VSA 1391 by, one or more legislature, not to call anybody out. It is a crime in Vermont for a lawyer to practice medicine without a license. When you pass a spending bill, you have to yield to the fact that you gave an oath to honor the Constitution. The U.S. Constitution has a precedent in Dent versus West Virginia. It happens to be so central to American way of life that the Civil War was escalated into West Virginia over it, which for the Union was decisive because West Virginia breaking away to keep Frank Dent from practicing medicine, for all those Frank Dents out there that are making health policy, they've been making health decisions without any medical science training, any empirical training. West Virginia was key. It's a rock-ribbed constitutional precedent based on the U.S. Supreme Court ruling in 1889. And a state broke away from another state, declared independence, went, miles up the road and shot at the Virginians at Gettysburg over unlicensed medicine. It's one of the most grave and serious precedents that the U.S. Supreme Court has rendered to say that West Virginia was right, basically. That, West Virginia was entitled to do so. The Blue New Deal includes that the Dent versus West Virginia ruling is so important and needs to be applied in states, in counties, in communities. It needs to be upheld. Now that includes adding new medical sects, because there were 103 different traditions of good doctors, good shepherds, leading back through the founding of Vermont and through the founding of America. And we lost all those traditions except two. And so it's time to look at the conservative option, to look at the liberal option, which happens to be the one and the same, of looking at what the old-time shepherds did that founded Vermont, of which many of them, and it won't be surprising to you, were French, were Dutch, were Prussian, were inspired by the ancient Greeks through neoclassicalism and the Olympics. And so adding ability first medicine, Vermont Olympic medicine, into every county in Vermont is central to the Blue New Deal. Adding that third medical sect, reintroducing that ancient Greek tradition, is extraordinarily American, and it's good for perfecting the brand American medicine. Upgrading the master facility plan for justice is consistent with founders of Vermont. That includes stegology-like defenses. Stegology comes from the ancient horse shepherd word where you get stegosaurus as well, as in good defense. So, we were involved in a opioid diversion prevention program with an algorithm that controls 40% of the pharmacy wholesale orders in America. That happens to be so important because that can be optimized in Vermont to provide us the safest healthcare system in America and reduce the incarcerated population traced back to opioids. I happen to be a published peer-reviewed medical scientist, a pharmacologist, where that was my area of study. The Blue New Deal also adds a private magistrate judge that does periopertology. Periopertology is like anesthesia and surgery to provide pain prescription oversight, injection oversight, where the Joint Commission in D.C. is responsible for the accreditation decisions, responsible for the opioid epidemic, by having mandated pain scales in healthy community people. Endorse our Blue New Deal today.